Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Today is Wednesday, July 7th, and just checking my Facebook. Make sure I'm going live here. And one second, there I am. So, commitments and limitations. So, a quick story I heard once was a story about a farmer that had a pumpkin patchers grew pumpkins, and when the pumpkins were little, he would put them in some of them. Some he grew wanted to grow really big, and in some he put in jars and other different things, and some of those pumpkins. Well, any pumpkin that was in a jar that was still growing, that was in something that was around it, it would grow to the shape of that jar. And I remembered this also because if you've ever been to Disney World, if you've ever been to Epcot, have anybody been to Epcot? And Living with the Land, there's that they take on a little boat ride that shows them how different ways to grow vegetables and fruits and things. And I remember as a kid back then, and still when we go back every few years with the kids, is there's a part in there where they have a mold of the Mickey ears, and they're growing a pumpkin in there, and then the pumpkin grows and it looks like the Mickey ears shape. And so when I read that story, I thought of that and how that relates to us is that some of us, or a lot of us, have limitations on ourselves. There's limitations of the way we think of ourselves, the way what we can achieve, the jobs that we could have, the relationships that we could have. If you're in real estate, you put limitations on yourself. Not you might be new to the business, but you might not be at the level you want. But I bet you're putting a limitation on yourself. You're thinking, wow, there's a very successful agent. They sell these many homes and they have this many clients and they're this successful. I hope to be that. That's a limit. That's a limit. You're putting a limit. Of course, that's a big goal to have. Sometimes you put these limits are out there and you hope to get to those goals or hit those limits someday. But sometimes that puts, like a jar, like a pumpkin in a jar. We can only get to a certain level. And not to talk about business all the side, but are we that way with our lives and what we are comfortable with? Are we out of our comfort zone? Are we staying in our jar because we're limiting ourselves because we think our happiness, our being content, being our day-to-day lives, we're in a jar. So a lot of us are in a jar and don't know that there's more out there for that. So alongside of limitations comes commitments. Your commitment is what you are striving, what you are committed in, what you want to accomplish, and what goals you want to reach. But commitments could also be bad, like limitations. So there's two definitions of commitment that I wrote a note here, looked them up online to give you the exact two definitions of commitment. Here's one: the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, activity, etc. So the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, activity, etc. Example, dedicated to something, that's commitment. Now, here's one that you might not think of: an engagement or obligation that restricts freedom of action. Again, an engagement or obligation that restricts freedom of action. So you could have negative commitments. You might be committed to negative things, or things not really negative, but are placing limitations on you. You have commitment. I see this with new agents getting into real estate. They're committed to another job, and they have to figure out a way how to get into real estate full time, and that's their ultimate goal. And they have these commitments. Now, there's commitments that are not really negative, but you have to limit yourself to what you could do. A lot of us have commitments of family, friends, income, because when you're new to real estate, you don't have an income right now. You have commitments that you have to make, but make sure you're really viewing those commitments and your limitations, and you have to figure out a way how, if you want to go beyond those commitments, beyond those limitations that those commitments are putting you in, they're restricting your ability to do things. You have to figure out a way are commitments that you could get rid of, that are not lifelong commitments that you can't get rid of. Some of us, little things. Some of us are committed to watching too much TV. Some of us are committed to, I like to, when I get home and I like to relax and don't do anything for X amount of time. There's some people that don't have those limitations. Some people have limitations on how many phone calls they want to make, or commitment. They're committed to not making as many phone calls. Health-wise, there's people committed to smoking, but they know it's not good for them, but they're committed to it. You're committed. You're doing it. It doesn't matter. A commitment could be a habit, but you're committed to doing that habit. You could be committed to speeding. There's a lot of realtors out there. I know that from when I started in real estate, I got several speeding tickets within the first year I was in real estate, because I seem to always be rushing to appointments. I got to meet this buyer, that buyer. I got to rush back to the office so I could get a deal together, so I could fax it to this agent, and I'm not paying attention. And back in 1992, before we had, at least before I had a cellular phone, so we had to rush to the office to make those phone calls back then. So sorry, I'm dating myself there. But today really is just thinking about your commitments. Are they something that are going positive, or are they restricting you? And think about those limitations. Are you that pumpkin in a jar? Are you limiting yourself to a certain, and where did that jar come from? Is it because of you and what you think of yourself, and the things that you think you could handle, the things that you could think you could learn, the things that you could think you could succeed in? Are you placing that jar, or is the people around you placing that jar? A lot of times, in success or jobs, everybody's looking to the people closest to them, and they think that the most successful, or the happiest, or the person with the best relationship with their spouse or their kids, that's the limit, that's the jar. They just want to hit that limit. Are you following me when I'm saying where's the jar? Are you just trying to do better than a little bit more than someone else, and then you'll be happy? But that is another jar that you're putting in cards. You could be even happier. You could be even more successful. You could have more free time. You could save more money and retire earlier. There's so many different things. So all of us have a jar somewhere. There's a limit. We're putting like a ceiling or a jar around us. How big is your jar? Where are you? Where will you stop growing, and where do you think that you will stop growing, and see beyond that? And I used that example a couple of weeks ago about goals, and if you watched it, great, thank you. But the example I use is when in professional golf, or any golfer, any good golfer, when you're putting, the goal is to get it in the hole. But when they hit the putt, when they're hitting it, they're not trying to just barely get there. They're not just, oops, I hope it just barely gets into the hole. They're hitting past the hole. So that's why you see, if anybody's not a golfer at all, if you ever watch golf, if they miss that hole, it goes like a foot or two beyond the hole, and they're like, why did they hit it so hard? I used to say that. That's what they're doing. They're not trying to barely get it there. They're trying to hit it straight, get there, and if you don't go past your goals, or you don't have a vision of passing your goals, you're putting limits on yourself, and you could come up short. You never want to come up short, so shoot past it, like in golf. Don't have a jar or have limitations on yourself, like I can only make this amount of money, or have this many sales, or be this happy, or have this much free time to enjoy things in life. You can't have limits on things, or you'll come up short and you won't ever get there. So that's a little insight of what I was thinking today about commitments and limitations. Hopefully this gets your brain flowing and thinking more in depth about what's going on in your life day to day. So that's it for today. Have a great Wednesday. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow on Thursday at at high noon. All right, bye-bye.